This is going to be hyper specific in that it's about Missouri, but I think I think that this is something that a lot of people might have to deal with in the future. So we're going to read about a Missouri issue that I think will have application. So I think it will be relevant to the broader YouTube sphere of people who watch me. So, okay, we're going to read this article. This is by Politico or on Politico. This is Missouri town fires half its city council over data center deal. When I saw the title, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Getting rid of half of your city council over a data center. I mean, yeah, I get it. Data centers suck. But anyway, residents of a St. Louis suburb turned out in droves to unseat four incumbents just days after the council approved a development agreement for a $6 billion data center. Ooh, this is by Jeff Tomek. Festus, Missouri. Voters in a small Missouri town unhappy with the city council's approval of a $6 billion data center struck back at the polls last week, ousting all four incumbent council members running for re-election. Nice. Swift justice. Tuesday's election in Festus, Missouri, a city of 12,000 people along the Mississippi River, a half hour south of St. Louis, is the latest example of growing public backlash against cities agreeing to host hyperscale data centers over the objections of residents' concerns about their local impacts. Yeah, we also had a data center that was going to be potentially made near us, but I think they put it on hold because of public backlash. So, keep putting pressure on them, and eventually they'll hopefully fold. Until they inevitably just start putting them in all the like black neighborhoods or whatever, because historically that's what America does when stuff is unpopular and gets nimbied out of white areas. They usually just do it involuntarily in black areas. But okay, on the same day as the Festus election, voters in Port Washington, Wisconsin, a Milwaukee suburb where tech giants Oracle and OpenAI are building a $15 billion data center campus, also registered their disapproval by overwhelmingly passing a first-of-a-kind referendum to restrict future projects. At least 3 other cities across the country will vote on similar measures this year. That's going to be popping up all over, man. And it's a good thing too. So the rout of half the Festus City Council was fueled by a surge in voter turnout and widespread frustration with the data center approval process. It's really the way the deal was handled that led to this kind of uprising, said Rick Belville, who won the nonpartisan race for Ward 4 councilman by more than 40 percentage points over incumbent Jim Tenen, who'd voted to approve the data center. The other 3 losing incumbents were Jim Collier, Brian Weiner, and Bobby Venz. The thing that kind of sucks about this, though, is well, so this is city council, but I don't think that these people are going to really care that much. I don't know if they really care if they are going to remain seated on city council. And I bet they, to some extent, line their pockets from allowing the data center bill to pass. I don't know how, but I would guess that, they were probably wined and dined in some way to do this, because obviously data centers are very unpopular with the populations because they lead to higher energy costs, higher water costs, pollution, noise pollution, all that sort of stuff. And so the people don't want them. So if the people in charge accept them regardless of what the people want, I feel like there's got to be some sort of whining and dining happening in the background, or just like donations to their campaigns, like ungodly large donations or something. But Belleville 70 has never run for public office before and walked neighborhoods and knocked on doors during the campaign. What he learned was that residents were frustrated by the city's unwillingness to hear their constituents and general lack of transparency around the project, he said. I ran because I thought the city was not listening to people, he said, and the data center fight is far from over in Festus. Opponents are gathering signatures for a recall petition to oust the mayor and remaining 4 council members. They also filed a lawsuit Thursday against the city and developer CRG, part of Chicago-based Clayco. Technically Clayco. I assure you that's not my company, people. It's not me. I promise it's not me. I'm going to have to wipe this technically Clay thing from the bottom of my screen while I read this or something. I don't want people to think I'm affiliated. But a national real estate development and construction company. Mayor Sam Richards and CRG didn't respond to calls and emails seeking comment on the outcome of Tuesday's election or the lawsuit. Yeah, I hope that this stops it from happening. These are all the like normal like process ways that you can try to gum up the works to keep these things from happening. And then there's also the civil disobedience way that will probably come after that. But Mayor Sam Richards and CRG, I just read that. The city council voted March 30th to approve a development agreement for the data center plan for 360 wooded acres on the city's southwest side. The operator of the data center hasn't been identified. One of the many questions that the city and CRG have been unable or willing to answer, said Festus resident Sherman Boyle. Boyle is among the plaintiffs in the lawsuit filed Thursday. His neighborhood backs up the data center site, and he's among 11 property owners identified in the agreement as being eligible for a voluntary buyout. His neighborhood backs up to the data center side, and he's among 11 property owners identified in the agreement as being eligible for a voluntary buyout by the developer. He and others said the city and developer have downplayed any concerns about the project's effect on electric rates, water, and the impact of surrounding neighborhoods. Yeah, they always do. This was so avoidable, Boyle said of Tuesday's election outcome, urging future city officials to listen to your residents. At the core, they probably won't, but but I mean, maybe they will. I mean, this is part of it. This is part of like what causes people to, what causes actual, some form of democracy to exist, where they have to listen if there's enough of a public outcry. So, at the core of the lawsuit challenging the reasoning of the data center, and the development agreement with CRG are allegations of various secret meetings and a lack of timely public information meant to stifle opposition. Various secret meetings. Okay, interesting. I wonder who was in those secret meetings. Or if they're just saying that the public was left out of it. I don't know. Lori Merriman also lives next to the data center site. She helped form a grassroots group, Wake Up Jeffco, organized in recent months to fight data center projects in Festus and surrounding Jefferson County. Good for you. This is going almost next door to our house, said Merriman, who is not among those available for a buyout. We just built it 2 years ago. It was supposed to be our forever home. Oh, I'm sorry. Merriman initially got involved in city politics to get information about a new subdivision proposed near her neighborhood. Only in November, months after the city had begun discussions with CRG, did she and other residents learn about the data center. Yeah, I mean, this is great though, that people are getting active, getting involved. I wish that people would do this more for other things and not just, NIMBY, like we don't want it in our backyard sort of stuff. But it is any sort of organizing that gets you out of the house is a good thing. And it also just like stretches that organization muscle that is going to be necessary, when things get even worse. So, opponents said city officials' disdain for data center critics is reflected in text messages and emails obtained by Festus residents through records requests. The messages are cited in the lawsuit filed in St. Louis County Circuit Court. In one text exchange last fall, as pushback against the data center proposal began to intensify, unidentified Festus officials said the city council must avoid getting caught in the sideshow of uneducated people. Oh, God, I hate politicians, man. They always think they're so much better than everybody. In another exchange the next month, an unidentified city official discussed a need to keep the flock herded. Yeah, this is how they think of you. This is just for like city council though, like, or Festus, yes, Festus officials. This is how they think of you, as a flock to be herded, as animals to be tended to, as like mindless simpletons that you just need to corral. And I'm just saying they have very little power. I want you to now imagine like what the Epstein class thinks of you. These billionaires who are untouchable, who think that they are like gods, they think this times a million. So, yeah. Yet another suggests residents would forget about the data center controversy as soon as they find out the city is getting a new Olive Garden restaurant. Wow. That's so funny. The cache of emails and texts also showed that political support for the data center went to the highest levels of state government, including Missouri Governor Mike Keogh, sucks, who agreed to lobby members of the Planning and Zoning Commission ahead of a November rezoning vote. Yeah, yeah, this stuff is like, this is coming down from on high. Like the order of operations is the billionaires have an idea, right? Then they push that idea to the highest levels of government, all of the people with political power. Then that gets trickled down all the way through all of the various local governments, all the way through. But it all gets ordered from the top by the Epstein class. So in case people were unaware of how this sort of stuff even comes about in this like small town, it's because way up the chain, a company or OpenAI or whoever lobbied, some group or some governor in this case to and gave them a bunch of bribes to get them to support like their data center plans. And then once that all happens, then they just find the right place with the right politicians that they think they can get it through at. So, but yeah, it's all ordered by the Epstein class, commanded and dictated by the Epstein class, with no will or no consideration for the people who have to live around them. The governor reached out about Monday's vote, said a message from an unidentified sender. He's willing to call the one or two folks that need to be nudged. A spokesperson for KO didn't respond to a message seeking comment. Missouri campaign finance records show a political action committee made up of labor unions that support data centers because of the jobs they create, aka like I think 5 jobs maybe is how many jobs this will create per data center. I mean, it's an ungodly low number of jobs that data centers create. Now, there are jobs in terms of like construction. That's temporary though. But yeah, the actual jobs that they create is like 5. They spend almost $40,000 in the final weeks of the race on newspaper and digital ads and yard signs in support of the 4 canceled members booted from office. Well, clearly it didn't work. Wake Up Jeffco organizers, meanwhile, were collecting recall signatures outside the Festus Home Depot on Friday to ask the mayor and remaining council members. Their hope is to install leadership that will listen to residents and terminate the data center contract. Mary Mann said last week's election should serve as a warning to local officials in Missouri and beyond who try to ram through big data center projects over the will of residents. We've been called the minority, but look at the polls, she said. We had record turnout and the incumbents were ousted by landslide margins. Yeah. We do have the numbers. That's the most important thing. We have the numbers, they have the money. That's how it always goes. But yeah, good job, Festus, Missouri. Let's keep the anti-data center hate train rolling. That's what I say.